Do you notice anything when you see this picture of wolf brothers? Yes, it's the founding myth of Rome. You probably know it as a beautiful story of brotherhood, brothers who grew up drinking wolf's milk and founded a 1,000-year dynasty. However, the founder and first king, Romulus, became king by killing his brother. He committed fratricide. There's another mystery hidden here. The legend says that when Romulus grew old, he voluntarily stepped down from the throne and ascended to heaven, 750 years before Jesus. What really happened on the Italian Peninsula? Did Romulus really go up to heaven? I will open the door to the secret.
Please subscribe before watching the video.
The story of Rome's founding begins in Lazio, central western Italy. The people living here were the Latins, typical farmers. There were no big cities, just about 30 small villages clustered together. The capital of the Latins was Alba Longa. Every year, people from the 30 villages gathered together to offer sacrifices to their chief god, Jupiter. This was called the Latin League, a kind of annual Latin assembly. It feels like an early version of the EU. But normally, these people lived scattered across 7 hills. The Palatine village, the Esquiline village, each had its own king and its own laws. Their unification was difficult because of the terrain. Between the hills, swamps spread widely. When the Tiber River flooded, it became a sea of water and mosquitoes swarmed. But surprisingly, this location was a golden opportunity. Since boats coming up the Tiber River couldn't go any further, all trade activities had to end here. Moreover, it was right in the middle between Etruria in the north and Greek colonies in the south. It would be strange if this area didn't grow into a major power. So at some point, these villages started coming together. Of course, since this was passed down orally, we don't know the exact date. One day, they just said, "We are Rome." Why Rome? Actually, the name Rome was given by the Etruscans. Around the 7th or 6th century BCE, Rome was invaded by the Etruscans from the north. They ruled Rome and even named it as they pleased. At first, they called it Rumon or Ruma. Rumon meant flowing river in Etruscan. So it basically meant country bumpkins living by the river. But their rule wasn't all bad. They taught architecture, art, and political systems. After the Etruscans left, the capital Alba Longa was ruled by King Numitor and his brother Amulius. Though brothers, like many families, they didn't get along. Then, Amulius staged a coup and drove out his brother King Numitor. Amulius happily wore the crown, but he had a problem. His brother's daughter, Rhea Silvia. Yes, same name as Princess Leia from Star Wars. Amulius made Princess Rhea a priestess and banished her to a temple. If she couldn't marry for life, there would be no heir to threaten the throne. But Mars, the god of war, fell head over heels for her. Princess Rhea became pregnant with twins and gave birth to Romulus and Remus. Uncle King Amulius was shocked when he heard the news. He gave the order, "Throw those babies in the river." Cruel, but common in ancient times. Anything threatening the throne was eliminated, even babies. The basket floated down the river. Normally that would be the end, but the children were lucky. A she-wolf appeared. Romans at the time believed the wolf nursed the babies. When you see the statue anywhere in the world, you think Rome. That's how it became myth. What's certain is that a shepherd named Faustulus, whether adoptive or biological father, found and raised them. Romulus and his brother probably grew up in a shepherd family. Time passed, and the 2 brothers became strong young men. Those shepherds, they had great leadership and charisma. One day, while tending sheep, their father told them the truth. "You are royalty." As expected, the brothers began sharpening their swords for revenge. They succeeded in gathering supporters and marched into Alba Longa. Their goal, eliminate their great-uncle Amulius and restore their grandfather to the throne. They succeeded in the coup, and Amulius was soon executed. Grandfather Numitor returned as king, but his grandsons, Romulus and Remus, decided to build another city outside the capital. Something strange, right? They could have just inherited grandfather's land. Anyway, the 2 brothers went out to find land for a capital, and they fought bitterly over the new capital site. The older brother wanted Palatine Hill. The younger wanted the Aventine area. Finally, the brothers decided to split up. Romulus drew a boundary line so his brother couldn't cross over. But Remus jumped over that line. What's the big deal? Romulus exploded and killed his brother right there. Shocking. grandfather killed his brother, grandson killed his brother too. Actually, fratricide appears often in world mythology: Cain and Abel, Osiris and Set. Founding myths always have this common feature of starting with a brother's blood. T.P. Wiseman says in his book Remus, a Roman myth, the myth was formed through transformation, and the repeated brother conflict reflects how Romans gained political legitimacy through power struggles. Also, the Numitor Amulius story might be an older tradition from Alba Longa, and the Romulus-Remus story was possibly added later when connected to Rome's founding. So, to summarize, the Numitor myth existed first in the Alba Longa region, and the Romulus group, inheriting this, added layers to the myth. The founding and early development of Rome. According to legend, Rome was founded on April 21, 753 BCE. At that time, Rome was really insignificant, just a few huts and a population of a few hundred. In ancient society, population equals national power. Romulus used his brain. Immigrants welcome. He accepted fugitives, criminals, slaves, anyone. But as he accepted people, a problem arose. The gender ratio was off. Without women, men couldn't marry. In ancient agricultural societies, having many children was important. So Romulus came up with a trick. He decided to invite the neighboring Sabines. We're having a festival in Rome. Bring your whole families. On festival day, the Sabine people came without suspicion. Music, alcohol, food. The atmosphere was great. But suddenly a signal rang out, and Roman men began kidnapping Sabine women. It was mass bride abduction. Naturally, the Sabine men were furious and went to war with Rome. But as time passed, the Sabine women had completely put down roots in Rome. They had husbands and had given birth to children. It was complicated. Another battle between the Sabines and Rome was imminent. Right before the fight, the Sabine women rushed in. Don't fight! One side is our fathers, the other our husbands. Afterward, the Romans and Sabines made a peace treaty and decided to merge. Even more surprising, they decided on joint rule. There were two kings. Even with two kings, there were no administrative problems because real power was held by the Senate, composed of 300 nobles. There was also the comitia. To summarize Rome's power structure, the king was like a president, the Senate was like Congress, the comitia was like a national referendum. Romulus reportedly ruled Rome for 37 years, growing a small village into a city-state. But his end is definitely a mystery. According to legend, on a stormy day, he received heaven's call and ascended. He became a god. Doesn't something seem strange? Today, there's a theory that the Senate assassinated him. As royal power grew too strong, the nobles quietly eliminated him. After Romulus, 6 more kings appeared. Each had achievements in different areas, which makes you wonder if they're real. Second, King Numa, a religious figure. He created Rome's entire religious system. The calendar and priesthood were his work. Third, King Tullus, complete opposite, a warmonger. He completely destroyed Alba Longa. He eliminated Rome's hometown. Fourth, King Ancus, economic expert. He built Ostiaport and made Rome a trading city. Money started flowing in. From the fifth king onward, Etruscan kings ruled. First, Tarquinius Priscus. This king's achievement was sewers. The Cloaca Maxima, a massive sewer system, still works today. It's 2,700 years old. Sixth King Servius, a reformer. He surrounded all of Rome with walls and started a census. He divided citizens into 5 classes, according to wealth. Rich people were class 1, poor people, class 5. He also created new assembly system. The rich voted first, and if the rich agreed among themselves, that was it. Poor people couldn't even vote. The seventh and last king was Tarquinius Superbus. His nickname was the Proud King, a dictator. Anyone who opposed was purged. And finally, what had to come came. The prince assaulted a noblewoman named Lucretia. She committed suicide, and Roman citizens exploded. Lucius Brutus shouted, "We don't need a king anymore! Let's rule ourselves!" In 509 BCE, King Tarquinius was permanently exiled. The 244-year monarchy ended. Now Rome was a country without a king, the beginning of the Republic. Of course, the Senate remained. 300 nobles held real power. What did they create instead of a king? Consuls. They elected 2 consuls with 1-year terms. They made them check each other. What about emergencies? They designated a dictator and gave dictatorial authority for 6 months. But after 6 months, he absolutely had to step down. Interestingly, the title king remained, but only for religion. The priest was king in name only. The SPQR motto was used throughout the Roman Republic and Empire. SPQR is an abbreviation of the Latin Senatus Populusque Romanus, meaning the Senate and Roman people are the masters. It expressed the ideology of being based on the authority of both nobles and commoners. This concept greatly influenced the development of later democracy. It can be seen as the prototype for modern democratic mottos like America's We the People and France's Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. See you in the next video. Veil.